Welcome to the Real Estate and Wealth Podcast, where I hope to make real estate easy for you. Today, we are talking about Letitia James. First, we are going to clarify the properties that she owned and has owned that is up for scrutiny right now. And then next, we're going to follow the money and check out her net worth, because I've seen rumors that she is worth $15 million. And if that's the case, then there's some other questions that need to be asked. And last, we're going to just go over a comparison of what President Trump did and what she did so that we can see the similarities in the case. So stay tuned and watch to the end. Letitia James made headlines prosecuting President Trump for inflating the value of his real estate empire, but now she's the one that's under federal investigation for allegedly manipulating her own real estate paperwork, not by inflating it, but by downplaying it. And here's the thing: Trump used private money, whereas Letitia James, she may have done this with federally backed loans, which is a huge difference. So before we jump to any conclusions, let's just clarify the properties that she owned and has owned. Let's start with the property that she bought in 1983 with her father. That property was in Queens. The thing that we do know is that she listed her father as her husband, which is a problem. Now, they probably can't use that right now in her case just because it is so old, but it does establish a pattern of nefarious acts of her doing fraudulent activities, which can potentially help the prosecutor's case if this does go to trial. The next property that she bought was in 2001, which is the Brooklyn brownstone that we've been talking about, that the use and occupancy lists it as 5 properties, but her mortgage paperwork only says 4 properties. Now, she purchased this property for $550,000 back in 2001. And with a quick Zillow search, the Zestimate states that property is worth $1.89 million right now. Now, what is the issue with this particular property? Well, if you are going to use federal financing, which is a FHA loan, they only allow you to finance up to 4 units. After 4 units, so 5+ units, then you need to use commercial financing for that. She also would get other benefits in terms of lower down payment, lower closing costs, lower insurance rates, and anything else that I'm sure she tried to leverage this property and get. So that is an issue. And now the most recent property that she purchased was in 2020, which is the Norfolk, Virginia property. Now, this property has the issue of her stating that this is her primary residence when she actually lives in New York and is the New York Attorney General. That is an issue because you can't have that as a primary residence and you actually live in New York. If you're not going to live in that property for at least 12 months, then it cannot be classified as a primary residence. And that is the major issue there. Now, when she filed her New York ethics disclosure, she put that Norfolk property was an investment property, but the mortgage paperwork states that it's a primary property. So that is what is in question with that particular property. Now, she bought the property for $137,000, and a quick Zestimate look, the estimator states that it's worth $236,000 right now. So the big question, is it a residence or is it a rental property? Because she has 2 different classifications for it. So those are the 3 properties that are in question. And now let's follow the money, because on social media, I don't know if someone just started spreading rumors, but they were saying that she is worth $15 million. There's no credible sources for this except for just it being rumored. But if she is actually worth $15 million, there's some other questions that need to be raised. So let's look at her numbers and determine what her net value potentially is right now, unless she's getting some kickbacks that we don't know about, but I'm sure that might come up in her investigation and we'll find out more later. But as of right now, let's look at the numbers. All right, so as a New York Attorney General, her salary is $225,000. She's also an adjunct professor or teacher, and she makes anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 a year. And then from her Brooklyn investment property, she makes anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 per year in rental income, which makes her total estimated net worth $2.7 million, which is a far cry from the $15 million. And like I said, if she is worth $15 million, then she's getting income from somewhere else that she has not reported. It is feasible that possibly can happen, but right now the records are not showing it. Now, let's talk about Letitia James versus Donald Trump. Here's where this gets a little spicy, because if you follow the Trump civil fraud case, you already know the drill. He's accused of inflating the value of his properties to qualify for better loans. But Letitia, she may have played the opposite game, and it still got her in trouble. So he inflated, she deflated. So let's look at the differences between the two situations. Now, for loan type, President Trump, he used private banks. So Deutsche Bank, he used to get funding for his properties. Whereas Letitia James, for her residential properties, most likely she used an FHA loan, or potentially it could be a conventional loan. Now, the strategy for what they did, President Trump, he inflated the value to secure a larger loan. Letitia James, she downplayed details to qualify for easier terms. And the results, he got a $454 million civil penalty and a business ban of, I believe, 3 years in New York. For her, she's currently under federal investigation to be determined. The irony in all of this is that Letitia James was like barking from the top of her lungs, saying all kinds of things. And what's crazy to me, I know if I committed fraud, I wouldn't be saying much of anything. I would just go in there, do my job, keep it quiet, keep it professional, and get up out of there. All of the people that are shouting the loudest are now coming under scrutiny. And on the next episode, we will talk about Maxine Waters and the hot water that she's in right now. One thing that I feel like the people don't have confidence in our judicial system right now, because they're feeling like nothing is going to happen. And I hope that they do take this seriously, and she ends up not with just a slap on the wrist and does at least get her license revoked and a hefty fine. But a lot of people want to see her go to jail. And I can't disagree. I really can't. So we're going to see what happens with this case moving forward. And we know that everyday buyers don't have a huge legal team behind them if they make a mistake. And we also know that if it was one of us that made that mistake, they will be coming down on us hard. They don't want to hear anything about, oh, I accidentally checked the wrong box. They're not going to want to hear any of that. So we don't want to hear any of it either. And we need to see this thing get wrapped up, and wrapped up quickly. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.